Moving on to something that will fit better with its presentation on the Game Boy screen, we have Ultra Golf from Konami. But oddly enough, not from under their Ultra label. We don't have course maps in this article, but we do have a rundown of gameplay modes. Ultra Golf is a competently done golf game. It hits all the beats I expect with a golf game. Good course selection, three-click power meter, the ability to sort of try to determine if you hook or slice by adjusting your stance when you swing, all of that. Like a lot of other early NES golf games, it also uses a top-down camera angle to show you where your ball is in relation to the rest of the course. Hitting the right shot's just a matter of making sure you're aiming in the right direction, hitting the buttons at the right time with your power meter, and, of course, well, having the right club selection. I do like that the game innovates by giving different clubs different profiles for their hotspot on the power meter based on the lie of the ball. A club that performs better on the fairway will have a smaller hotspot in the rough or in a hazard. The game only has 3 real problems. First, the top-down angle makes it a little tricky to figure out how to go about shooting around obstacles should you land too close to a tree. Second, the course feels kinda bland. It's not bad, and the holes we're presented with generally fit real-world golf course design. But it just feels kind of generic. It's not like it's attached to any real-world golf course license or anything like that. Third, and probably the biggest complaint with the game, is that if you miss the hotspot, instead of going off course, where other games where you'll really veer to one side or the other based on where you miss your target, you just don't make any real contact with the ball. Again, it's not a bad game, it's just it feels, well, like the next golf game to play once you've gotten bored with the last golf game or mastered that game's course. Next is Boggle Plus, an adaptation of the Parker Brothers board game for the Game Boy. I feel Boggle is hurt the most by the release of Wordtris, which is basically the same concept as Boggle, with the difference that Boggle has the license of a successful board game, while Wordtris was designed from the very beginning to be a video game. The presentation in Boggle is generally better, and I like the selection of various opponents with different skill levels to go up against, but it's not really my cup of tea. We also have another arcade port with a Game Boy version of Missile Command. Missile Command is a fairly decent port of the arcade game with a few graphical embellishments. Keeping in mind that I'm not playing the game on a Game Boy itself, moving the cursor around works well enough with the D-pad. The game does have a problem with the screen size only allowing for 2 missile batteries and 5 cities, but they manage things enough where it's not any more difficult than the arcade version, nor is it easier than the arcade version. The game doesn't really add any new gameplay modes to the arcade version, sticking with what works. The only real major difference is the addition of a 2-player mode to be played via link cable. The one big thing from the arcade version that didn't get ported over is the ending. In the arcade version, once all your cities are destroyed, you have a big glowing explosion that fills most of the screen before showing the words, "The End." Instead, we have a graphic of a ruined bridge with the same text, but which doesn't have the same impact. I mean, Missile Command's ending screen is meant to invoke nuclear annihilation, and this doesn't quite do that. In Super Mario Adventures, Princess Toadstool escapes before her Bullet Bill wedding with King Koopa. We have an article this issue on Nintendo's planned CD-ROM add-on. Not the one with Sony that fell through, but not before Sony designed a prototype, but the other one. The one planned with Philips after Nintendo kicked Sony to the curb with basically no notice, and which didn't actually lead to a prototype or any real solid hardware, just some god-awful games for the CDI. In Counselor's Corner, we get some questions about Final Fantasy II, particularly on how to beat the boss Ashura. We have another Addams Family game, this time for the Super Nintendo, but still from Ocean. We have some level maps and notes for the game, in particular routes to help let you expand your life meter before you rescue your captured family members. Once again, we have another game from Ocean, and as with the earlier NES Addams Family game, This one isn't particularly very fun. The controls aren't as loose as the NES version in terms of weird platforming, but it feels just as aimless, with no real direction in the game in terms of what places you need to go in what order. I mean, yeah, we got the guide, but a game shouldn't require you to have a strategy guide from Nintendo Power in order to beat, unless it's bundled with that strategy guide from Nintendo Power in the first place. Further, the game gives you traversal power-ups, like a beanie that lets you do a double jump and glide somewhat, but those power-ups go away when you go through a door into one of the areas of the game's of the mansion. So it's not like with Metroid, where you get certain power-ups which allow you to unlock certain areas of the map. So this is, much as the NES game, not a very fun title, and definitely something to skip. Next is our cover game, WWF Super Wrestlemania from LJN. We get a rundown of the game's roster. And is it wrong for me to say that I'm pleased to note that only 3 members of the game's 10-character roster are deceased as of this recording? WWF Super Wrestlemania is a great step up from the earlier WWF WrestleMania games on the NES. However, it's not without its flaws. All the wrestlers pretty much have the same moves, and there are no sort of long-term campaign modes in the game. No race for the title in tag team mode, or single-player one wrestler campaign mode, nothing like that. It's a more fun and more competent wrestling game than the NES titles from LJN were, but that's kind of damning with faint praise. We've previously covered Smash TV on the NES, and next up is Super Smash TV for the Super NES. So it's time to see how well this game works on this platform. We have maps of the layout for Studios 2 and 3. Now, this is a much better version. Using the face buttons works as a fairly reasonable substitute for the second analog stick. While the game does give a limited number of continues, which are considered to be a no-no with arcade ports, I will say that the game does give a considerably higher rate of extra lives than the arcade version does, which kind of compensates. Not totally, but it kind of does. This is a rock-solid 16-bit port of this game, and if you can't play this game on a platform with 2 sticks, like, for example, the version available through Midway Arcade Collections on the PS2, and I believe also either the original Xbox, or the Xbox 360, or the PSN or XBLA releases of Smash TV, then this is a pretty good way to go. That said, if you have an existing way to play it on twin sticks, go with that one over this one. It'll be a much better and more fun experience, and closer to the arcade version to a certain degree. But if it's not available, and you've got a Super Nintendo or Retro Clone console, go with this one. This time in Nestor's Adventures, Nestor is playing the NES version of Addams Family, and Gomez warns him not to touch a switch in the kitchen stage so he doesn't disable a shortcut. In the Now Playing column, AD&D Pool of Radiance gets panned, but then again, because this genre isn't exactly their cup of tea, I suspect they prefer more narrative-focused JRPGs over Western-style dungeon crawlers. In the top 20, Metroid 2 has finally bumped Mario off the #1 spot for the Game Boy. Our celebrity profile this issue is Eddie Furlong from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The good news is Furlong is still working, including a 4-year run on CSI New York. However, he's also been in and out of rehab and has had multiple domestic violence restraining orders, so this is not one of the best long-term careers of people who have made it into the celeb profile. In the Pack Watch, we got some big titles this issue. There's Street Fighter 2 coming from Capcom, there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time from Konami, and a look at the release of Sim Earth for the Super Nintendo in Japan. My pick of the issue is definitely going to be Super Smash TV for the SNES. Super WrestleMania doesn't have much of a single-player mode, and most of the other games I can't really recommend on their own terms without some sort of caveat. Aside from that, I checked Speed Demo's archive and did not see a no-warp record as yet set for Thrilla's Safari. that is something I wouldn't mind seeing someone do. If you're planning your speed runs for the next Awesome Games Done Quick or Summer Games Done Quick, that would be a cool thing that I would love to see. I might even chip in some few bucks during that one. I donated to Summer Games Done Quick. Just saying. So, until next time, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please hit like on the video and subscribe to my channel for notifications of the next episode. If you really like me, well, there are a couple ways to financially support the show. There is the tip jar, which is over here. I'm pointing the right direction, really, I swear. Over kind of around here on the YouTube channel. And there also is the Patreon page where you can send a few bucks every month. And you get your name in the credits. You can pick a topic for one of my other review show, breaking it all down. And links can be found below. And also up here. If you're on my YouTube channel, that is. So, until next time, once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you then.